Hello, friends and community. It's so good to be here with all of you. I'm the Khristina, the director, program director at the Maine Arts Commission in Arts and Health. And the Maine Arts Commission, I'm going to do a land acknowledgement. The Maine Arts Commission is located in the homeland of the Wabanaki and the people of the Dawn. We recognize and honor the Abenaki, Maliseet, Micmac, and Passamaquoddy and Penobscot nations and all the Native communities who have lived here for hundreds of generations in what is now known as Maine. I'd like to thank the members of the Arts Committee Roundtable who helped plan these sessions over the last 5 months. It's amazing how long sometimes it takes to do something like this. Jesse Loretta Spanglet, Megan Schreiber, Lee Klaman, Nina Misra, Martha Piskuskas, Mollie Cashwell, Cate Parker, and Dr. Ellison Gorman for their guidance and dedication to the field of arts and health. I want to say thank you to the people that are joining us now and just honor and recognize that many of you have been working in the fields of arts and health for decades, and this would not be possible without you. And I'm so glad that you are all here to support these efforts. I'd also like to thank the staff. Eli Manis will be on tech today doing all of these slides. He is the magic man. I wouldn't be able to do this without you. Eli, thank you. Thank you to Martha. She'll be moderating the chat and is always a guiding force in this work. Ryan Layton, thank you for your tech and for recording and editing the video afterwards and getting it out to everybody and getting everybody here. And I'd also like to thank the Commission Board. Commission Board is essential to supporting this effort and has been dedicated and committed to helping us to be able to bring this to statewide. So I really am thankful for their dedication. I also like to thank Amy Hausman, who I believe is on the call. She's our executive director, and Amy's the best. So as a state art agency, we are funded through the National Endowment for the Arts and the Maine State Legislature. The Maine Arts Commission works to spark creativity and connect people to the arts, celebrating Maine's cultural heritage, and supports artistic expression in every corner of the state. Through partnerships, initiatives, advocacy, and yes, grants, we support artists, organizations, schools, and communities in making Maine a more creative and connected place to live. At the Maine Arts Commission, we know that creativity is a bridge that builds connection to place and to each other, helping to nurture healthy, vibrant communities. Research tells us that arts and culture are a prescription for the epidemic of loneliness and isolation, and has a role to play in public health. It is our sincere hope that this Arts and Health Roundtable will spark inspiration that is actionable. I have heard from so many of you about how excited you are to see this initiative happening at a state level, and I have no doubt that we can do extraordinary things together as we build community and foster good health for all of Maine's people through arts and culture. One last thing before I turn it back to Mollie to introduce our terrific speakers. We encourage you to introduce yourself in the chat and where you're from and how you are related to arts and health, and to engage in the Q&A. Your voice is so important to this conversation, so please let us know your thoughts. If you are interested in joining the Arts and Health Planning Committee or have an idea about a topic or initiative that you're interested, please reach out. Thank you again for being here, and I'm going to pass it back to Mollie.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I have the great pleasure of introducing our opening artist presenter. Artist curator and community organizer Peter Bruun co-founded Studio B in 2022 to use art and story for community justice and well-being in Maine. And as he's been doing many amazing projects, which you'll hear something about, it was wonderful to see that this year Governor Mills presented him with the Governor's Award at Maine's Opioid Response Summit in recognition of his project, or Studio B's project in 2024, 19 towns and 19 stories. So welcome, Peter.
Thank you so much, Mollie. Before we go to my first slide, I want to preface this by sharing an anecdote of what really has guided me for many years in the work I've done in the intersection of art and health. a number of years ago, I had the opportunity to listen to um, a gentleman who had decades of experience in the mental health field. He had run a number of healing communities and recovery programs. And in this presentation, he spoke about knowing every single diagnosis in the manual for mental health, but he really boiled it down to something very simple, and that is mental illness is defined as separation from self, community, and family. And recognizing the power of art to connect us to self, community, and family, that has become the passion of my work in art. And I'm going to share an example from anecdotes from recent Studio B work that touch on self, community, and family. And why don't we go to the first slide? So back in 2023, I think, I was doing art workshops at Lincoln County Recovery Community Center. And this is Lauren. Lauren is very public about her story. And she came to me and she said, I want to do this art workshop because I was raped by my art instructor when I was in college. And what I want to do is recreate the painting that I had been working on when he had raped me. I have not painted since. So that began a year-long process. And let me be clear, this is not art therapy. Art therapy is a clinical practice. This is the therapeutic value of art. I worked with her in this public art workshop with other folks from the Lincoln County Recovery Community Center, and she ended up making, it's the painting in the right down here, which is a really a facsimile or replica of that painting. And with that, she found her power, she found her voice, and subsequently, she became a regular, she went gangbusters on making art and became a regular fixture at our Studio B events, sharing her art and sharing her story. And she herself has gone from somebody paralyzed by panic disorder, anxiety, unable to be anywhere in public where she felt safe, to being someone able to speak about it. Art connected her to herself. Next slide, please. So last year, in this past summer, in Alna, Maine, a tiny little village, at the Puddle Dock Village School, we held three, basically eight-day long art exhibitions. The Puddle Dock Village Festival, to my mind, is a potential paradigm for how any presentation of visual art, be it at a museum, a gallery, a nonprofit institution, can present art in its most favorable light and illuminate its relevance to community and, frankly, its communal health benefits. So I'm going to share just very briefly what we did. In the upper row, the first one on the upper left, you'll see is Keith Plummer, a local Damariscotta artist who has made art in response to his own traumatic experience. And in the top middle slide, we'll get there in a second. So the upper left-hand corner is Keith Plummer. Middle top is Ed Epping, who made work about the carceral system across the country. And in the far right are actually some samples of community-made work from Two Bridges Jail, where I did it. No, I'm sorry, those works are from young people at Wiscasset Middle High School. So these top left and top middle are examples of really professional quality art, professionally displayed in an exhibition. There was a third exhibition, and we use these as jumping points for programs such as sharing during the receptions community-made work that also intersected with the themes of the shows, which allowed voice visibility and affirmation of people who are often marginalized. The second row, what we see are examples of the kind of, frankly, health resources that we bring to the table to our events intentionally, not accidentally, but we foreground it. So on the left of the second row, you have folks who do youth development work, who all spoke during our youth summit, basically, which was created on the heels of Keith's work, which was all about how do we protect our children? Let's have a youth summit. In the middle of the second row, you have Will Madison of Healthy Lincoln County, who showed up at a number of our events with Narcan and alike. And on the right, you have Crystal McLean. The final exhibition was actually about self-care and well-being. And so Crystal is a healer, and we had a whole healing festival where she and many others presented their stuff. The exhibitions became the jumping point for these community engagement experiences, which you see some samples of in the third row. We used the Alma Meeting House, which was just down the road from the Puddle Dock Village School. And there we see numerous speakers where at every single event there was sharing. People shared their own stories, and there was a communal healing in the safe space of a cultural experience. And in the bottom, you just see some, pictures of that. People met, they reunited, they felt affirmed in their experiences. Youth had voice, visibility, and joy. We had healing experiences, you name it. This, to my mind, is something that any cultural institution can do, leveraging their art for wellness. Next slide, please. So that's connection to self and community. Finally, family. This is an anecdote that emerged, and one of dozens of similar anecdotes that emerged during the Puddle Dock Village Festival. Who you're seeing in this photograph is Ed. And Ed was actually the gatekeeper for the historic spaces. His passion is not art, it's not social justice, it's historic spaces. And so he attended the occasional event, but not very often. He was mainly, as I say, the gatekeeper for my being able to have access for this festival at these sites. I know it's 9:15. I'll wind up in 30 seconds. Ed, at the end of one of our events where we were talking about justice impacted people and their experiences, shy, nerdy Ed stepped to the front, shared in public the following. 3 months ago, I learned recently that 3 months ago, my father died. It's wonderful to be in this space where we're talking about this social justice impacted experiences, because I never talk about this, but many years ago, my brother was incarcerated. And as an outcome of that incarceration, I became estranged from my father. And I have never had the opportunity to reconcile with him before he died because of the estrangement that occurred because of my father's incarceration. He shared this in public, and it was like a cathartic confession. And he no doubt experienced a connection to family that otherwise would have been repressed. So that's my talk. Art has the power to connect us to self, community, and family. And that is where its power as a tool for health resides, as you will hear from every single other speaker that follows.
So much,
Thank you.
Peter. I know that some of the links are getting a bit buried in the chat. I want you all to know that you'll be receiving them after the fact. So you can find links to more of Peter's work in the chat, and you'll receive them after as well, because there's so much there. I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Meriah Hope, who joined the Maine Council on Aging in January of this year as the Age Equity Program Manager. She works as lead facilitator for the organization's Leadership Exchange on Ageism and heads their Creative Aging Project in partnership with the Maine Arts Commission. Welcome, Meriah.
Great. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I'm just so grateful to be here with all of you wonderful folks in this virtual room, especially in this very challenging season that we're all working to navigate. What a gift to be able to share time and energy with all of you and think about how we can collaborate on the possibilities that creativity can bring to our communities all across Maine. Just very briefly, a little bit about Maine Council on Aging, if you're not familiar. We are a broad, multidisciplinary member organization, and our vision is for a Maine where everyone can live healthy, engaged, and secure lives as we age in our homes and in our communities. And we always want to work to ensure that the vision is inclusive of diverse older people whose voices may have been less heard throughout history. So I am thrilled to be able to share with you about our Creative Aging Maine project. It is a project being worked on in collaboration with the Maine Arts Commission. I think all of us here know about the tremendous benefits that creativity can bring to health and well-being for all, and specifically to older adults. So we know that when we engage in creativity, our levels of the stress hormone cortisol decreases, while our levels of health and happiness boosting hormones like serotonin increase. And we know that those relatively simple, straightforward physiological changes mean better physical health on a whole variety of levels, lessening a lot of disease risk, as well as delaying the onset of disease, even when we're genetically predisposed to it. And perhaps more obviously, we all know that creativity is wonderful for our mental health. It can help us be happier, more confident, and reduce mental health concerns like anxiety and depression, of course. So we also talk a lot in the aging space about the importance of cultivating joy when it comes to living a meaningful and purpose-filled life filled with gratitude. So creativity is certainly key to that. A little bit about this particular program and how we are incorporating all of those benefits into communities across Maine. One of the things that we really want to focus on is reducing social isolation, which again, I know many of us are familiar with. We know it's especially an issue for older adults, especially in a lot of our rural communities in Maine. So we're working to build connections that are going to connect us to community, both in person, but also through that creative experience. Something that really stood out when I first started meeting with folks from Maine Arts Commission is that phrase of creativity being connection, as Khristina said again in this morning's introduction. So again, I just think those positive connections are needed more than ever in this era. So just some background on the project. In 2024, the Maine Council on Aging put together a report highlighting these benefits of creativity and proposing a plan to help bring more of those benefits to older adults throughout Maine. And we're now working with Maine Arts Commission to put that into action, along with funding from the Morton Kelly Foundation. Really working to build a robust system of creative programming for older Mainers that offers opportunities for really rich, creative, engaging experiences that bring that purpose, meaning, and joy. So let's go to the next slide, please. The big thing here is that we're thinking way beyond a lot of what's typically available for older adults, kind of more of a simple arts and craft class. We want to think about creating unique programs that really help older adults to engage with their communities, and not only that, but help them to explore their own aging and thinking about their sense of purpose and belonging within their community. So what we're really working to do is build a foundational learning hub for teaching artists, and that will consist of a foundational creative aging teaching to help teaching artists build skills for working with older adults. And then we'll incorporate a really comprehensive training on ageism and age positivity. And this last part of the training is also going to be available to community host sites. It's something that's going to make it really unique so that places like libraries, YMCAs, and community organizations, their staff will also have that opportunity to benefit from that training. And then the long-term goal is to really help these teaching artists and the host sites connect and offer up these very rich experiences to older adults throughout Maine. So we have made a lot of great progress this year working with Maine Arts Commission. We're very, very excited to see what's next in the coming year. And we're certainly very open and welcoming to all those who are interested in learning more and would like to be a part of it. So my email's here on the screen, and I know we're going to follow up with that contact information. So I'll be happy to connect with you if you're interested. Please feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, Meriah. Sorry, I have to give the time notice here.
Yeah.
Please do put your email in the chat. That would be fantastic. I know there's so much more to come about this program. So I'm very delighted to move us to the Director of Community Health and Wellness at Maine Health in Portland. Welcome, Cate Parker. I'm sorry, Director of Lifestyle Medicine in Brunswick. Apologies there, looking at the wrong. So welcome, Cate.
Mollie, I think Cate might not be with us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll put Theresa on deck then. Theresa, if you're ready. So I'll introduce the dynamic art of health and healing, the dynamic living art of health and healing from Theresa Jornlin. Theresa's passion is to deepen her understanding of the connection between the body and mind, energy and spirit. And she serves the field of whole health. Her studies in mindful movement and body-mind-centered therapies and indigenous earth-based teachings inspired her to also create 2 life-changing courses, Women Awake and Breath as Medicine. So welcome, Theresa.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. And thank you for the sharing so far. It's just inspiring to feel the enthusiasm of Peter and Meriah's share. So thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, I just want to open with a quote from Lao Tzu, a famous Chinese spiritual teacher. He said, if you want to awaken all of humanity, then awaken all of yourself. If you want to eliminate the suffering in the world, then eliminate all that is negative and dark in yourself. The greatest gift that you have to give is that of your own self-transformation. So this got me when I was very, very young, and I have been very fortunate to be aligned with work that is passion-driven, mission-driven. I also realized when I was very young that the word heart has the word art, in it. So I feel very blessed. For 37 years, I've worked with people through my business called Dynamic Being in a variety of different forms, whether a private practice or teaching classes. I have a lot of training in mindful movement, studied with to translate that back into the West has been a challenge and a creative challenge. So teaching classes, trying to reinstitute ceremony. I was also struck by Malidoma Somé, a famous African teacher, who said, when a society loses ritual, it begins to rot from the inside out. So doing formal rituals, whether it's rite of passages or grief rituals, but also helping businesses work with where there's the necessary endings and change in the business or in the team, and how to honor the endings and beginnings, which is the essence of the creative cycle. I've also more honed in on serving as advisor and counsel to several organizations here, but really wanting to help those in leadership do that inner work, because what's on the inside will create the coherence or incoherence, on the outside. So that's it's taken a lot of different forms, but I feel like my sole purpose is to help people really return to the body and the resources that are in the body, and which is an inside job, but it's also done in relationship, like in earth, nothing heals in isolation. So it's sort of a both and. So specifically, what I'm always trying to do is where there's content, because there's so much information, to help people harness their mind and really notice where they're in their head and how to get back in the body. We have 5,000-year-old traditions. So there's lots of content, But what I always try to do, and I love the challenge, is how to take that content and put it into an artistic form. So there's nothing that I don't share, especially in the Women Awake courses, where there's information about how do we reclaim the body, particularly through the fertility cycle. How do we reclaim the whole experience of the womb space, and then having that information which women understand, but then asking them to create a poem or to dance or to write. That's when I see the integration begin to happen. And then most importantly is when to share that, as Peter already referenced. So it's the content, but how do we bring it into the body through the arts as a healing and integration modality, and then to share it. So that's sort of my map with anything I'm doing, whether I'm teaching at a business or with a group of people who are deeply involved in their own healing and awakening.
Theresa, I want to give a little 30-second heads up.
I think the last thing I'll say is that my canvas is really the human body, and I think the greatest expression of art is the human body, and we aren't even in it yet. We haven't even fully awakened to its beauty and ability. So how do we tend this thing that's in our care, so that we have a chance of seeing the earth as really the greatest art museum?
That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So our next presenter is Lee Klaman from the United Way of Southern Maine. As Director of Community Resilience at the United Way of Southern Maine, Lee leads collaborative efforts to ensure that community members with the least access to resources can connect to the care and support they need. Within this framework, United Way of Southern Maine is working to bring a social prescription program to Maine. Welcome, Lee.
Hey everyone, good morning. Great to be here. Fantastic to be on the second day of these roundtables and hear so many wonderful projects going on across Maine. It's really been inspiring. But today I'm here to talk with you all about social prescription. Before I get into that, I do want to do a little bit of audience participation, ask you all a few questions. So just with a quick show of hands, how many of you create art? How many of you does it make you feel good to create art? Anyone feel good when they create art? All right, wonderful. And about how many people go for a walk, a hike, ride mountain bikes, or maybe just sit and listen to the birds to help maintain positive mental health? That resonate with anyone? Yeah, me too. And how about, does it make anyone feel happy to go to the theater or go to a concert? Definitely me for that one. Yeah, figured I'd be getting these responses from this group. Now, wouldn't it be great if a doctor could prescribe these activities as part of your healthcare? Well, social prescription makes that vision a reality. So over the past two roundtable sessions, we've heard so many impactful and passionate presenters sharing how you all bring arts and health practices to our communities. And while social prescription isn't necessarily a standalone arts and health program per se, as much as it's a model to bring these programs to more people, especially those who traditionally may not have access to this type of programming. So as we've seen over the past two arts health sessions, using the arts, nature, cultural interventions is not new, and many people here today have been doing this for decades. So what social prescription is, it's a healthcare approach that connects people to community-based support services to supplement traditional clinical and medical interventions. So health providers prescribe patients to a social prescription program where that patient works directly with a link worker or a care navigator that connects them with local activities such as nature programming, volunteer opportunities, maybe a dance studio, or enrollment in an art class. And these resources would be free for that patient. So that link worker also helps navigate life challenges such as transportation to and from the prescribed art session, as well as conducts regular assessments throughout the program to gauge the impact that that program may be having on the patient. So many social prescription programs have been able to integrate into health insurance coverage and Medicaid, making them more sustainable and accessible to a broader range of individuals. So in these cases, healthcare systems partner with community organizations and arts providers to ensure patients can participate without any financial burden. And this integration not only improves the patient well-being, but also reduces healthcare costs by addressing underlying social determinants of health and combined with other medical interventions. So by embedding these programs with formal healthcare systems, providers can offer more holistic, person-centered care that treats the whole individual and not just that medical condition. So the goal is to increase access to services in the community to address social factors that impact health, such as loneliness, isolation, lack of resources, all of which contribute to negative health outcomes. Like I said before, being able to walk in the woods or create art to maintain positive mental health is a luxury, and for many people in our community are unable to access these types of resources. So social prescription changes that by integrating these activities into healthcare, recognizing their essential role in maintaining a healthy, balanced life. So not only does social prescription have the potential to improve our health, but it also supports our community's local arts and cultural organizations. So in most social prescription models, arts and culture resources are compensated at the going rate that they would receive from any other participant, enabling them to expand their reach and impact for what we all know as a very important community resources. Slide 2, please. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with Dr. Vivek Murthy's, who is a Surgeon General to the United States. His 2023 report on our epidemic of loneliness and isolation, in which he highlighted the profound consequences of isolation and loneliness that are taking place across the country and ever present in a state like Maine with our rural, spread out and older population. And he also identified ways to address these challenges, such as strengthening social infrastructure for community programs, building a culture of connectedness, and for health systems to link patients to community-based supports, such as the arts and health programs we're talking about today. So social prescription has been shown to address mental health conditions such as anxiety, depression, social isolation, and loneliness, as well as some physical health conditions such as diabetes, heart disease, blood pressure, COPD, and as well as improving mobility, especially in older adults. So involvement with social prescription has been found to reduce risk for coronary artery disease, stroke, and dementia. And one study has shown it reduces primary care visits by up to 42%. Another Canadian study showed a $4.43 return for every dollar that's invested into social prescription. That accounted for $296 million in savings in annual costs from reduced hospital admissions and emergency visits. So there's a ton of fantastic data out there that shows how impactful that this type of program can be. But for many of us in this room already know that creating art makes us feel good, makes our communities stronger, and that's why we're here today talking about this arts and health programming. So I just want to say thanks for your time. Please keep an eye out for some information from the Maine Arts Commission on a more in-depth look at social prescription programs. This is going to include some firsthand insights from some successful models that are out there today. And currently there is a group discussing how we might bring social prescription to Maine, and we'd love for you to join that conversation. So please reach out to me, Khristina, or send a chat message, and I would love to connect you with that conversation. So yeah, thanks for your time today, and I look forward to hearing what else everyone has to say for presenters after me.
Thank you so much, Lee. Social prescribing is such a beautiful and has so much potential. So thank you for your work there. And I know the Arts Commission is right there with you, tackling that one. Very delighted to introduce our next speaker, who will talk about arts and corrections and the transformative power of creative self-expression. Phil Warmoth is a writer and 28-year public school educator. Phil's work in corrections over the course of over 20 years resulted most recently in the publication of Inside Out: Art and Writing by Residents of the Hancock County Jail. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you, Molly. Eli, could you cue up the video for me, please? So by way of introduction, I thought an efficient use of my time would be to play a video of a story that was covered by News Center Maine in 2020. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and play that.
Finally tonight, it's something we often hear when it comes to the criminal justice system. Do the crime, do the time. But there's a program in Maine in which that time is being spent doing some self-reflection.
As News Center Maine's Annie Yashivi shows us, it comes in the form of art and meditation aimed at rehabilitation.
This is a triumph, right, over adversity, right? This is someone who didn't give up.
Life behind bars. It's a life limited by space and choices. And it's a life that can be very tense and can occasionally be violent. We hear about it from men. No names or faces allowed.
So where I'm at in life now, in jail, trying to break out and be free again.
But a program at the Hancock County Jail in its third year is giving inmates a chance to focus, relax,
something to do to get your mind off what's going on,
and to forget their immediate surroundings.
I'm gonna take some shape here.
A self-reflection program through art and writing. Phil Wormuth used to teach kids. Now his class is with men on the wrong side of the law.
I can see people willing to take chances and willing to not be so self-critical. It's clay that doesn't dry. Have you guys used this before?
No, I can't wait.
Okay.
The first part of the class is hands-on. The assignment, make a sculpture of your face.
You know, don't try to be perfect. Just have fun with it.
Behind bars, but improving their lives.
For me, it was about my road to recovery, I guess. To finally, the time that it took me 20 years almost to become sober.
The next half of the class.
Thinking about that one personal challenge, what did you think at the time? What did you feel? And then what did you do?
Like getting arrested.
That could be one of them. Push people in a way that they wouldn't have pushed themselves.
50 people over the years, each getting a voice and a unique way to express themselves.
I'm trying to find myself. I'm getting there.
You're getting there.
Then I skipped over to periods of growth. I did go to open door recovery and recovered.
Correctional officers see the benefits.
I think it's a symbiotic relationship. I think they're seeing the benefits of it with inmate morale and engagement, and the inmates see it as well.
A program that is creating a change, hoping to keep inmates from offending again.
How is this activity reflective?
In Ellsworth.
So it's never too late to reinvent yourself.
Hannah Yashivi, News Center, Maine.
Worth noting, there is a similar program in the Penobscot County Jail.
A study of the California Arts and Corrections found that 83% of inmates who participate in this type of class say they felt happier and less stressed, and it even helps them get along better with other inmates.
Thank you, Eli. Could you bring up the one slide that I have, please? While he's doing that, what you're going to see in the slide is a picture that was taken by a reporter for the Ellsworth American, our local paper here, who covered the story. You'll see John, who was a former resident of the jail, and me standing holding the book. And so here it is. This is the last copy that I have. I've distributed over 70 of these books to correctional facilities, recovery centers across the state, to be used to kind of duplicate the program that I started at the jail here. In the back of the book, there's 6 reproducible lessons that can be used in corrections or beyond corrections. So what I'd like to do by way of introduction to John is read the foreword that he wrote for the book. My name is John. I was a resident at the Hancock County Jail between 2022 and 2024. Prior to that, I was an artist who had only recently discovered my talent. While there, I tried to make the most of my time and decided to get my high-set diploma. That's how I met Phil and first heard of the book you now hold in your hand. During my stay, I continued to produce art and writing. I actively sought to get access to art supplies for my fellow residents and did my best to encourage the idea that art in corrections is important. Art, whether in the form of writing, drawing, painting, music, etc., is a healthy means of expression as well as communication. It gives residents an avenue to give something back to society while also helping to heal themselves. This was especially true for myself. My art gave me the ability to connect with many people both inside the facility and outside. Through the efforts of Phil and other volunteers, I was able to have multiple art shows in the community, one of which I was even able to attend via video conference. I cannot express how important arts is in correctional facilities. Some of the greatest minds I've ever known, I met on the inside, and by sharing a piece of themselves with the outside world through art, we are inside out. So I was inspired by this study by, it was called The Impact of Prison Arts Program on Inmate Attitudes and Behaviors. And you heard them quote a few of those statistics in the news story. I'd like to add a few more. And then I was inspired to gather some of my own data from the inmates that I've worked with. Let's see. So a study of California Arts and Corrections program found that inmates serving 5 or more years chose to take art classes because they wanted to learn new skills, 92%. It was a good way to pass time, 25%. And that they always enjoyed art, 33%, and like to be creative, 83%. 62% of inmates serving 5 or more years indicated they got along better with other inmates. 61% said they liked themselves better. 61% reported fewer disciplinary actions were taken against them. 52% stated that they got along better with staff. 30% indicated that they got along better with their families as a result from participating in those programs.
Thank you so much, Phil. I got to give you a little 30-second warning. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'll be real quick. All right. So here's my version of that with the inmates that I worked with. 9 out of 10 strongly agreed that they were encouraged to express their creativity. 8 out of 10 felt a sense of satisfaction from the work they created. 7 out of 10 said the class had a positive impact on their attitude and behavior. And 6 out of 10 said the class gave me a sense of purpose. So I've put my contact information into the chat, and I welcome people to contact me. If you're interested in getting an electronic copy of the book, I will be very happy to send that to you.
So much. Beautiful work, Phil.
Thank you.
So next, we're going to hear from Lisa Kuzma, who's the founder of Zach 25. Lisa moved to Maine in 2022 after the death of her son, Zach, earlier that year. She founded Zach 25, which created a partnership between the arts and human service communities to provide meaningful mentorships for transition-aged youth as they exit the foster care system. Welcome, Lisa.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. When I lost Zach, as any of you who have lost a child know, I don't presume to believe I'm the only one has gone through this, but when I lost Zach, the grief was overwhelming. The pain was actually physical, and sometimes I actually lost the ability to breathe. I lost the ability to breathe. And knowing that I had to find a place for that grief, Zach 25 was born. I really professional career, which were twofold. I was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I worked for the Richard King Mellon Foundation, and I also worked for Allegheny County Department of Human Services. And in those 2 jobs, I focused a lot on helping the movement in Pittsburgh so that those makers themselves could find a bigger market for their products. We moved a lot of makers from retail to wholesale, and I have some great stories, which I'm not going to share with you there, but also the challenges of youth aging out of the foster care system, and what we could do to create opportunities for them. And so if we could pull up my slides, Eli. Zach 25 was born, and what you're seeing here is the logo, which was created by one of the youth, and the paperweight that we had made by the Pittsburgh Glass Center, 2 of our partners in this. And if we can go to the next slide, I'm going to introduce you to some of the Zach 25 youth. So we started with a mission that was that the creative economy could spark a light to guide transitioned aged youth to a lifetime of happiness, what we called their true north. We wanted them to find their true north. And so if we can jump to the next slide. And these are all Youth 25 kids. I knew that the key elements had to be the following. It had to have a caring adult artist, and which we were calling Makers with a Z for Zach. In Pittsburgh, we focused on 20 to 25-year-olds. In Maine, we're focusing on 18 to 25-year-olds, all with systems experience. We needed studio space, And we needed 2 hours a week for 4 to 6 months, which is a huge commitment, but that's what we knew we needed. And we also wanted to celebrate. We wanted to have a celebration. So those were the things I knew. And if we can move to the next slide. I knew that we needed money. I was very fortunate in receiving a very large donation from the foundation that I had worked for, and that allowed us to pay for stipends for the makers and the creators. It allowed us to pay for transportation, supplies, studio rentals if needed. We never did need those, and then our celebration costs because we wanted to celebrate at the end of the program. Next slide, please, Eli. Because I worked for Allegheny County Department of Human Services at the time, and if any of you are familiar with Allegheny County and Pittsburgh, Allegheny County developed a data warehouse 30 years ago. And so we had data to analyze that is beyond what most human service agencies have. And so we're a very research-based organization, and they wouldn't let me even start the whole thing unless I did it in a research-based method. So we wrote a charter. We researched best practices. We reviewed with the leading pediatric doctor, Dr. Liz Miller from the Children's Hospital in Adolescent Medicine, to make sure that we were on the right path. One of our interns was a graduate school, pre-med school at the University of Pittsburgh. She did a poster presentation, and then we did a final report, which is on Allegheny Analytics. And I think we're going to put all the links to all of those things in the chat. So we did take a research-based approach to the whole model. Next slide, please, Eli. Although our N was small in terms of research terms, we had 8 kids initially. 6 of those 8 still communicate with their makers, many of them very actively. The youth are continuing in some ways, many of them in traditional jobs, but using this as their true north, as an avocation. It doesn't have to become their vocation, although some of them actually are making a living through it. Next slide, please. And I wanted to share some anecdotes with you. The first one is actually the woman that's in this picture. She was a young mom of 5 children. Every time we would get on Zoom calls with her, the kids would be crawling all over her, and it was adorable. She wanted her time. So when she wasn't working and she wasn't dealing with her kids, she could learn something, and she wanted to learn ceramics, but she also wanted something she could share with her kids. And so the Christmas of the first year that we ran the program, she brought a little toy wheel for her kids to use so that they could make ceramics too. Another one of our students was a professional nurse, and her mother and her grandmother and she all said to me that without her weaving program, she may not be here today. She was having some severe mental health challenges, but weaving gave her that. She's still a nurse. She's not trying to make a living from weaving. In fact, when I try to buy something from her, she says, I don't make stuff to sell, I make stuff for me. And then finally, a young man that I just talked to last week is struggling to find a job. He's been in between jobs for a while now, but his income from his making is keeping him going, and he's teaching, which is great. And I just connected him yesterday with a small business development program in Pittsburgh that hopefully can help move him forward. Next slide, please.
Give you a 30-second time check, Lisa.
Okay, there's Zach. For any of those that want to see him, that's with he and his dog Diesel, the quirkiest, funnest kid you'd ever want to meet in your life. We have a great partnership here in Maine. One of our partners, Ahmed, is on the line with us today from the University of Southern Maine, along with Cave. We also are working obviously with the Maine Arts Commission and with the Maine Crafts Guild and with the Department of Health and Human Services. So we have great partnership. And last slide. Before Cave wanted to start talking, I wanted to show you Cave's going to be our second ZAC 25 student here in Maine. I attended the teen conference and got to meet Cave then, and this is the pot he created, and it's not showing up as great as I wish it would, but just so you know, Cave painted that whole thing black, dried it, and then put Jackson Pollock type spots all over it, and he had that plan when he came in. So it just shows the creativity that these young people bring. So thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me talk about ZAC.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Beautiful work. And you already queued up Cave It will speak next. He's a youth artist and youth leadership, youth artist and ambassador on the Youth Leadership Advisory Team, a first-generation college student studying health sciences at Central Maine Community College and working toward a future career in nursing. Welcome, Cave.
Hi, again, as you heard, my name is Cave, and I'm going to be talking about my overall experience with art and why I'm so interested in this program. I'm a foster care youth, and so I'm aged out of the system right now. But when I first got into foster care, I was like really struggling with like being in school and presenting as a foster kid because I felt so like off from my peers. Like there was a difference. And so then one of my teachers told me about this skateboarding program where they were going to come into the school and they were going to give people skateboards. You could build it your own, you paint it your own, and then they teach you how to skateboard. And when I was in that program, it really made me feel like I was just like any other kid. Like I was really just living my life and able to like connect with my peers. And a big part of that was the adult mentors I have, because on the days that I was feeling down or off, they would always come up to me and ask me what was going on. And it really showed me like how adults are supposed to show up in your life and how they're supposed to present. Because before, I never really had that like good adult presence before joining that skateboard club. Another thing that skateboard club allowed me to do is use my voice to do more advocacy, because before I was a little bit shy about joining YLAT because I didn't really know how to go about it. But from joining that skateboarding club, it really got me engaged with the people around me in my community. And YLAT has taught me so many amazing skills. And so when I heard about this program, I knew that I wanted to join immediately because I know how much a adult mentoring program can really do for youth. And especially when you're 18, about to age out of the foster care system and you don't really have those supports, this can really be like grounding for you. So that's all. Thank you guys.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing about your beautiful work. That sounds like an incredible program. So our last speaker before we have an open conversation amongst ourselves, Cate Beaver and Gray Baldwin. And I have a bio here for Cate Beaver. Cate is an experienced and professional advocate for access to arts and healthcare. Her business, Maine Music and Health, was founded in 2011. Cate also created the Creative Health Conference and co-founded Expressive Wellness Trainings to build relationships between arts and health professionals. So welcome, Cate.
Thanks. Hey, we do have a couple slides, and I'll just intro them and then let Gray take over. But this is a map of where you can find board certified music therapists. When I moved to Maine in 2010, there were 2 of us. So we've grown a lot. I'm really excited about that. And I think they're all really nice and cool and professional. So reach out to those people if you want. And you can do the next slide. So this is what board certified music therapists do. And we have one more slide that I'll wait for. That's how we can kind of collaborate and with arts and health professionals. I think we're all really excited that this conversation is finally happening. And based on the map, there are not enough music therapists or art or dance therapists. So it's great that people are finally kind of figuring out how to do this work in other ways. In my work, I'm mostly at Maine Med now, so I'm at the hospital working part-time in pediatric palliative care and part-time in adult neuro rehab. And then outside of the hospital, I work with adults with developmental disabilities and do a lot of trainings. So I would love to introduce Gray and let them take over because I know we don't have a ton of time.
Yeah, so I'm Gray Baldwin. I'm up in Mid-Coast area. I have a music psychotherapy practice called Main Street Music Therapy, where I work with minoritized individuals centering around LGBTQAI plus youth, adults, and older adults. And I also have a nonprofit called Bridge to Transformation, which works to use the arts in wellness with folks. Oh, we can put the slide back up, please. Thank you. So there's lots of different ways that we can work to, collaborative, like making referrals and incorporating us with arts programming, and especially the social prescribing. That's such a fantastic thing. You know, we'd love to work with folks to create opportunities for musical engagement, to share ideas from our, from our clinical training and practices with community work, co-treat and collaborate with folks that would love that. No, I think both of us would love that a great deal, to continue to collaborate with folks. I've collaborated with Peter Bruun and other folks here on the call. We're around to provide trainings and workshops and on all sorts of topics around music and wellness, and on how to work with different age groups or populations, as well as, trauma-informed care or
Ethics.
stress and pain. Did you say 30 seconds? Okay. And then, we're here also advocating at the state and national level, again, for more music therapy access. Cate, did we want to share, we have a few minutes still? Would you like,
Yeah.
we could share about like a case like we had talked about? Would you like to go first?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So at the hospital, I work a lot in the pediatric ICU. So we get kids who are there for a really long time, or kids who are in after a car accident or something like that. And so sometimes I will work with families to record the child's heartbeat and create kind of a legacy song. Families will either read a poem over it or sing their own song that they've written with music therapy, and that way they have something to bring home in addition to the aspects that Child Life works on. It's one small example. Do you want to share one too, Gray?
Sure. Yeah. And so with in a workshop I did, I was using lots of arts for it, and we were looking at resilience in the storm of this administration with queer people. We were down at Maine. I was doing it down at Maine Transnet in the ECC in Portland, and I used Personal Paradise, a poem, and I totally am forgetting the name of the person who wrote it, but I can find it and put that in the chat. But we talked about that, of having your own personal paradise and how are you going to protect yourself through this storm, and then made using, and we also used music about talking about telling your stories by or Tell Me a Story is a song by Skylar Kurgill. And then we used masks, and people painted and decorated the masks to embody through the mask the resilience that they have, after identifying those resilient factors. And we're able to take that home with them to think of the ways, and remind themselves of the ways how they're going to survive through this administration. But that's just a brief example of that. And I'm sure we both have like a billion stories that we could share. But the arts are so powerful, and they have a way of, if we have a little bit of time. Do you mind, Cate, if I keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. Like why they create transformation is because you can talk about your things that have happened to you, and we've all had that friend who's gone, or maybe we are that friend who went through a breakup, and and we just they just keep talking about it and talking about it, and you're like, can you get over it, please? Months go on, they're still, and it's like a plane circling an airport. But the arts, when we express with the arts, they have a way of making that plane land, that we're not as defended as we are with language. And also the arts are like the feelings and thoughts we have are not usually in words. And we translate it constantly to words to share with others. But the arts are a way outside of words that we can express. And so we're able then to express our experience through the arts. And we're also taking our experience, whether it's a tangible product that lives on, like a painting, or if it's just an improvisational sound that we're making and it's just in the moment, we're still taking that experience inside of us and transforming it through the creative process to an outside product, and then we bring it back in ourselves, and it's changed by that creative process, and it helps us to like store it differently. Like you're going to clean up your closet and put things away and where they go, and then suddenly there's more room. The same sort of thing happens within ourselves, and that's the key. That's the key thing about the arts and wellness, I think, and healing.
Thank you so much.
Oops,
very inspiring work. So this is open discussion time at this point. And the poem, yes, in the chat. So if anybody wants to ask a question of the speakers here, or share something additional or anything in between, I'll just do some light facilitation. Just raise your hand with the reaction function, and if you have any questions about how to do that, don't hesitate to ask in whatever way you need to, and we'll help you out. Cate, go ahead. And apologies if I've mispronounced your name.
No, you said it right, Cate. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning, and thank you for these roundtables. I'm going to come at this just a little bit different. I agree with everything and the benefits, especially what Gray just spoke about. I was a psychotherapist and a somatic experiencing practitioner, worked multiple decades in Maine doing this work, and now at 60, hung up my shingles to embrace my art. And in that practice, a lot of the things, particularly Gray was just talking about, were the things that I started, the emergence of these things that I started to recognize that were so limiting when I was working as a psychotherapist with people, and then be able to see my own healing process happening by moving through the arts. So I just wanted to kind of culminate all these different experiences from that angle as a person that was working in the field, embraced her art later in life, and then found these different missing connections, and now value that therapeutic art as a which is different, as I think what's his name, Peter said, from art therapy. Does that make sense? So I just wanted to give a comment that kind of brings it all together.
Yeah, thank you. Any responses? Feel free to chime in. Melinda, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you, Cate. That was beautiful. And I have been to some of your workshops in the past. So thank you for what you do. I wanted to bring up like the issue of funding. And I guess this is for Lee and others. Maine Health Access Foundation, MEHAF, which some of you may know, they do a lot to further health equity in Maine. However, I haven't seen them really get involved in using the arts. And I think one of my comments is that we saw more intersection during the pandemic. For example, I was funded by the CDC as a community health worker to do vaccination clinics during the pandemic. And we worked with Lights Out Gallery in Norway, which actually launched a contest, an art contest, encouraging people to represent how they were feeling about the pandemic, their isolation, all of that. And I feel like there was money for that during the pandemic, and there was a lot more encouragement towards meshing the arts and health. And I wonder if we will ever see that again, because right now it seems like the arts are always considered supplementary rather than necessary. And I love the idea of the social prescription. I also love the idea of classes that are targeting specific populations. For instance, at Tear Cup Workshops, we wanted to do a stone wall building workshop for women in recovery at Tucker's House in Bridgeton, which is a residential recovery center for women, and how having those workshops for a specific population can create a sense of inspiration and safety rather than individual prescriptions where somebody might be coming into an existing class. So I was wondering if anyone had any experience or comments or encouragement for that. Thank you.
Lee, go ahead.
Hi, Melinda. That is a very good point to be bringing up funding, because this, unfortunately, funding has to be there to push any of these projects forward and make them accessible. Not say on the social prescription front, that's something United Way is actively currently grappling with right now. I mean, there's a model there, there's partners, all the pieces are there, and funding is a big piece that's missing. And to your point about it being sort of like arts is sort of like secondary a lot of times, is that for a full, robust social prescription program, it's X dollars to be able to bring that to Maine. And there's, $20,000 here, $30,000 here, $10,000 here. And it's like, you gotta like piece it together. And then it's harder to make something, robust when you're sort of like a puzzle piecing it all together. Which I think is one reason why, there's sort of one of the major goals of social prescription is integrating it into healthcare, because then you have a more sustainable model with Medicaid and health insurance. Problem there is health insurance doesn't want to pilot something. They're not going to put their time and effort into a pilot. So you have to build out 2, 3, 5 years of data, and then you bring that to them. Like, wonderful, and that's when they get on board. So it's like starting it off. And I know other people feel this as well with having to prove a program over and over again and prove results. And to do that, you just got to like piece together little bits of funding here and there. And it'd be fantastic to be able to get, big chunks of money to support this work, where you can do not just a pilot with 10 people. You can launch a program that's serving 100, 300 people. And unfortunately, that takes those big chunks of money. And there's some foundations out there that are capable of doing that. It's just convincing them that art is just important as everything else that they want to fund as well.
Thank you.
Peter.
Yeah, I want to pick up on this question of the funding and the donut hole in a way that arts and health, as a single entity, tends to fall into. And certainly there are enlightened funders in the health sector who will recognize and fund the arts. And likewise, there are enlightened funders within the arts sector who will fund arts and health. And there are plenty of folks in the health sector who see arts as secondary or second tier. And there are plenty of folks in the arts sector who see health benefits as second tier. And it's a sort of a purist attitude towards art funding. And I think that the value of, and I imagine that those of you behind these art and health roundtables, is in first organizing the community around this intersection of arts and health, and helping us recognize that we are a sector, and not just that we're a sector, but that we bring value to the community. And from there follows education and advocacy for those art funders and those health funders who are sitting on the sideline. So I really think this is about creating a movement around this incredibly valuable work. Looking around the room, and I certainly don't know everybody in this room, we don't have the curators, the gallery directors, the museum directors, these are not the folks who are participating in at least this conversation, so far as I know. If I'm wrong, please correct me in the chat. But I do think that we need to continue this momentum that you're beginning to generate through these arts and health roundtables to shift the paradigm on where we place our money and where we place value and where we place impact and where we place the role of arts in our society, period. That's it.
On that note, I just want to, as an advocacy organization, make a very brief plant. Anytime in the coming 12-ish months when you get a call or a knock on the door from somebody that wants your vote in any way, become an arts and health issue voter. And they might not know what to say to you, but that's how issues rise to the top and then trickle down into policy and funding, is at the moment when you have leverage over their decision making and their platform development. You can just ask questions, and somebody told me once, if a campaign worker hears 5 times about something, they kind of run it up the flagpole and say, oops, we need to figure this one out. So I just want to say to really use your voice in that way. Some chat conversations in the chat. I invite anybody who's asking a question there, if you'd like to say it out loud, please feel welcome to. There's a question about university partnerships when it comes to evaluation and data collection, city council meetings.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat, but I've done a couple studies at the hospital that were IRB approved for arts engagement, and the changes in pain medication and anxiety medication, but they're such small studies. We don't have the same budget as a drug company, so it's really hard to get those big collaborations. But I know that there's like an arts and social justice program at UNE. Both Gray and I teach at Berkeley. USM is now having arts in counseling courses. So I think the more the word gets out, hopefully people will start to learn to work together and have a bigger impact than just those of us that are struggling by ourselves.
Yeah, I've also done a lot of research around music and pain and anxiety and trauma, as well as cultural responsiveness in music therapy. And so, I've been considering with my nonprofit that maybe getting working with one of the universities I teach at to get a research grant to then do a IRB study on the effects of whatever arts and wellness experience on wellness markers in people.
I know there's a lot of you with more questions. Jesse, I see your physical hand coming up.
Thank you. I couldn't find the
That's okay.
Button.
Feel free to unmute, guys, too. It doesn't need to be formal, so absolutely.
I just wanted to drop in here. I said this last week, but there is so much incredible research already out there and already happening. And a lot of it can be found at the NeuroArts Blueprint or at NOAA, the National Organization for Arts and Health, IADAMS, the International Association for Dance Medicine and Science. There are just incredible places that are already doing this research, and I think sometimes we feel like we have to reinvent the wheel, but we don't need to. A lot of this is out there already.
And I'm going to piggyback on Jesse to literally say the wheel has been created. I just dropped in the chat for Melinda the link to the Americans for the Arts wheel that looks at social impact, and you can download like a one-pager talking points based on kind of what arts and intersection you are trying to talk about.
That's a great tool.
This is Bridget in Belfast from Waterfall Arts, and I had asked the question about partnerships with universities, and the reason I was asking that, I'm all about your brain on art, how much access that book has given all of us to amazing data, and I find that is adequate probably for me to get my regular funders on board with what I'm doing. They support what I'm doing, but I do need to be able to show the effects of the work that I'm doing. And personally, I don't have a strong background in evaluation. At times in the past, our organization has happened to have somebody on the board or happened to have somebody in the community that had a background in data collection, but now it's back to just like me hoping that my little qualitative evaluation at the end of a couple weeks or something is adequate. And I'm really looking to up my game in data collection and showing the difference that our programs make. So that's what I was wondering, if there are any resources that people know of to help people kind of fine tune their data collection and their evaluation of their current programs so that we can hopefully expand them.
Hey, Bridget, if you want to reach out to me, I teach thesis, and yeah, I'm not a I've done some quantitative research. I am not a statistician. Oops, and there's a cat. And but I do understand ways to design studies and how to get information. And I just want to say that the insurance industry has really driven quantitative or number data as the most important one, and that's not true. And the research world is really embracing that qualitative and also arts-based research have a lot of information that is really, really necessary. And so that and looking at another cat, looking at mixed methods or and also increasing the value of things like qualitative interviews, or how was this experience for you, like sort of filling out forms and stuff, that information is valuable, deeply valuable.
There's so many great connections being made here in the chat and through these conversations. I think one thing I'm very interested in knowing, while I've got your attention, is that we will be hosting roundtables throughout the winter each month. And we have not picked the themes yet, because we were wondering if there are themes out there that you particularly would like to see. So if anyone would like to chat about that, or just popcorn in the, I'd love to hear from you about that, or afterwards.
I put a note there as well. I just wanted to say again, in the interest of raising awareness, your state senator and state representative, they aren't, busy in Augusta right now. And so this is an amazing time to make sure that they know about what you're doing in the district to improve lives. And, you're in many cases running a business. And so your work is something that it's their job to defend and advance in whatever way they can, or at the very least be aware of. So it's a great time to just drop an introductory email to them, so that, when the time comes that you might want to persuade them or inform them about something, you'll already know who they are, and vice versa. They're very accessible for the most part. They probably have day jobs doing all number of things.
Can I ask a question or say something, Molly? I don't know how to raise my hand.
Yes, do it.
Sorry. This is Nat from the Onion Foundation. We fund many of the folks that are in this room, but not everyone. Maine is a big state, and there's so many good things happening all around. I'll just offer from a funder's perspective. It's overwhelming to think about funding a lot of different individuals working in smaller scales. And we're really interested in helping everyone build systems where we can be a little bit more networked, and not that you have to work collaboratively, but if we could build some places that funding could go to, maybe for some distribution models or things like that, I think it might help us elevate this work. And I'm curious about how people might react to that idea. I know it takes work to do that, but At the Onion Foundation, we're really interested in systems thinking. So I invite anyone to reach out to me. If you go to the Onion Foundation website, it's very easy to figure out how to talk with me. And just for example, I'm interested in what Cate and Gray are up to. I'm unsure about how we would support their network or how we could support lobbying to change the laws around how music therapy can be acknowledged as an important thing. So that's kind of a lot to say, but just wanted to say hi and we're open for conversation.
Yeah, I'll just share a quick example. I kind of burnt out on it and have given up, frankly, but we spent years trying to get Maine care coverage for music therapy in the state. And that was frustrating. But what I'm more concerned about at this point is access to the arts and arts therapies. And for instance, yesterday I was training at the Maine Healthcare Association conference, which is mostly people that work in senior care and memory loss. And there are a lot of volunteer musicians that go in and play at those places, and also paid musicians, which I was advocating for. Like, do you ask your plumber to come fix things for free? No. So I just started thinking, like, what if we could have a training that is for musicians that go into memory care facilities so that they can be a little bit more involved and goal-oriented and engaging than just sort of performing, which is also great. But with this, there's not enough music therapists and there's not enough funding for it. So are there ways that we can kind of connect and share resources a little better? I don't know.
So can I jump in real quick, or am I interrupting somebody else?
Please do.
Side by Side has been working with the Maine Arts Commission, but also the MCOA on training teaching artists. And what you just shared made me think, like, maybe there is a network here that we're forming to create a foundation for teaching artistry across the state. Sort of a hub where those people can be trained in different modalities to work in these places, and then really seep into these different areas. And I like what you brought up, Matt, about working together. And it feels like that creative web is starting to really come together, and having these roundtables is so valuable. So thank you, everyone, for all your contributions today.
Mollie, can I jump in for a second?
Yeah.
I appreciate so much, Megan, you bringing that up, and I appreciate Meriah's note and Nat's questions. I think at the Maine Arts Commission, we really are looking, as Khristina said, as creativity as the lens and the bridge to connect us in so many ways to multi-generations, right? So think about how we can work with kids, how we can work with older adults, how we can work with all of us in between. And I think through some of these programs that we're putting in place with Side by Side, with the Maine Council on Aging, talking with other partners like Lee related to how we can bring social prescription to Maine. These are all things that are really, really interesting to us. So I'm so grateful for all of you coming together. And I do encourage you, as Khristina did, to join us for upcoming conversations and to reach out to us. We're so heartened to be able to hear all of the incredible things that are already happening here. And we want to be able to help support and amplify the work you're doing. And we want to be able to inspire new work so that we really can work together. We feel that Maine is the place that can be a leader in this work in our country. And so we look to all of you really as not only ambassadors and thought partners, but real collaborators and co-conspirators in that. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for participating.
We have 2 minutes left. So Khristina, I don't know if you want to use that for any closing remarks or.
Yeah, thanks, Mollie. Just want to reiterate that we are going to have those roundtables throughout the winter. And then in April, we're going to have an in-person convening in Brunswick at Maine Health. That has not been planned yet, so your input is imperative to creating a great day together. And of course, we're always looking for some funding to help make that day even better. So if you want to help with that, please reach out. And I'm just emotionally moved by the fact that we are here together talking about arts and health. It is a long time coming, and I hear you, Cate. You have been in the trenches for decades working, and you have not been alone in that. There's people all over the state doing this work, and so we're here to support you, and please bring those issues to us. We can connect you. If we don't know how, we'll figure it out. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and have a happy Halloween. Get dressed up and go have some fun. Mollie, anything else? We do have a few minutes, but anyone else have any thoughts they'd like to share before we go?
No, I think that's it. My end. So glad to be a part of this.
All right, then. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.